last but not least, we are going to have BEAU McCOY present SOLcademy. And I think that I'll have Jeff take his question. Hey, BEAU.
Hey, thank you, Kiana. Hi, everyone. My name is BEAU McCOY, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of SOLcademy. I joined an early stage educational startup in 2015 that we wound up selling for over $100 million. While I was there, I learned that students will search for things online they'll never tell to their teachers or parents. I saw this as an opportunity to use data to empower students with insights, to tell them useful things like what their talents are and what their potential might be. But I never thought students would be learning online enough to generate the data we needed. Then COVID closed school sites and forced learning to be online. Next slide, please. It's not engaging to learn about people who don't look, sound, or act like you from a teacher of a different culture. But over 15 million underserved minority American students are in this position, without access to culturally relevant lessons and without choice in the way they learn. Next slide, please. There are diverse, excellent teachers who are thriving in distance learning all over the country. What we need is a platform to connect them with students who need their lessons. Enter SOLcademy. Simple online learning, an easy to use, education-focused, open platform with culturally relevant content. If we can provide students with choice, control, and access, we can keep them engaged and make great recommendations and insights. Imagine a teacher starting class this fall with detailed personal information on every one of her students' abilities and tastes. Next slide, please. We're talking with dozens of teachers and parents to design a platform to simply deliver the best culturally relevant content. We're launching early September and invite you to join us on our journey. We're looking for educational content creators to build lessons and investors to participate in our first investment round. My question for you, how do we identify and promote talented educators who are thriving in the new educational environment with distance learning at its core?
Oh, thank you. That's a really interesting idea that you have there. You and I have been chatting a little bit in private here, so it's not going to surprise you that I'm not going to answer your question. I'm going to answer a better question. Right, right. And the better question is this. How do I generate revenue from the public school systems already spending 15 grand a year per kid to not serve them as well as they might there? I think that's a better question for you. I think what you were trying to do in terms of promote the agency of students to guide their own learning is one of the social and emotional learning concepts that is becoming popular as a result of this moment. Thinking outside of the traditional academic curriculum to provide kind of surrounding educational content, like, you know, what can I be when I grow up? What is it going to take for me to get there? I think there is an opportunity for you to do that. The way I would do it if I were in your position is to look very, very, very carefully at the strategic plans of the school districts closest to me. Number one, I think you should not say students, you should be more specific. Are we talking about high school students? We're talking about middle school students? We're talking about younger students? And the only wrong answer is anybody, right? Be something specific to someone specific. I would encourage you to start at middle school because there's a lot of need there. That's the point at which young people need to develop ownership of their own learning, and that you can be specific there. And I would lean into the social and emotional learning aspects, right? Few people are asking students what they've gone through in the last 6 months and what it means for their lives and their ambitions. You know, the kinds of students I wake up thinking about every day, African-American students, Latino students, and students impacted by poverty, are also the students most likely to have lost a grandparent or a favorite auntie in the last 90 days, right? Are also the students most likely to have had no contact at all with their school system in the last 6 months, right? Let's not forget that inequality is greater within the Black community than it is between Black communities and white communities. So we who have access to the kind of technology that makes this possible are sadly not representative of the communities we spring from. And we should remember that those students are served by school systems more than by parents. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. I am very happy to engage with you directly on that and introduce you to some school systems if you want, to talk about where I think there are places in school budgets where your organization might find a welcome niche. But I really think you need that kind of source of funding. I'll say this too, Kiana, forgive me, to a couple of the others as well. I started out in my journey in the education business as an entrepreneur. My co-founders were also African American. We started a business that raised tens of millions of dollars in venture capital 20 years ago when Kiana was a baby. And we learned something important in those days. We never let an investor meet more than one of us at a time. Because 2, let alone 3 Black people talking about business in those days immediately became a conversation about why we should be doing after school tutoring in Oakland and not building the business we were doing. But one of us could have a conversation about business. And that was, as I say, 20 years ago, at a time when Silicon Valley was more diverse than it is today, with the single exception of Asian men. So keep that in mind. It is not the same for us. Our opportunities are not the same, even in industries where we are the majority of the end users. And I think you really got to take advantage of that and of the current moment. Kevin, when he was talking about his organization, showed us some beautiful photographs of lovely Black children thinking about coding on the campuses of some of his sponsors. What I know is that if those photographs were taken on the campuses of his corporate sponsors, that the number of Black people doubled when he brought those kids onto those campuses. And the same is true at Stanford, if he brought them onto that campus. And I think there is a moment now where we need to be aggressively saying to our sponsors, why is this acceptable? Why is it acceptable, Google, that you hire from the same places that you always did, get the same people you always got, throw a few pennies at Kevin, and think you have done something? Let's get these kids to your campus. These 100 right here, you support them right now through school, through college, give them advice on how to get there and get them to your campus, and that will happen. I think something special is happening in this moment where those of us who have been talking about equity for a long time are more empowered and more people are talking about equity. And I think we should lean into that. And a couple of my friends have used me to do something that I invite you all to think about too. There are things that I can say that you shouldn't as an entrepreneur looking for funding. So invite those of us who are like that to your meeting and let us say it, right? Kiana will say it, Stefan will say it, right? I'll say it, you know, Don and Grant will say it. Things that have to be said, right? So not just that there are few African-American women in Atlanta taking AP computer science. There were years where there were no African-American women in Atlanta taking AP computer science. And while it is bad that the African-American women in Central Georgia who who passed the AP Computer Science exam would fit in my car. It's worse that half of them have been in my car because I know them because we had adjoining houses on Martha's Vineyard, right? Or their mom was at Harvard with me 30 years ago. And I think it's time for us to speak seriously about these problems directly to people who do and now are more inclined, or at least say they're more inclined, to do something about it. And I really invite you all to lean in to this moment, to overcome the fear of rejection, because the reality is not leaning in does not get you money. So anybody who runs away from you, if you do lean in, probably wasn't going to give you the funding you needed anyway, but lean in and try to find that opportunity and give some of the rest of us who have built up a little credibility, built up a little access, the opportunity to say the things that need to be said that you probably shouldn't be the one to say. I'm sorry, Kiana, but you know me well enough to know I'm inclined to
the mic has been dropped by Jeff, and this is why I say that, like, we have to just step into this moment and say the things that we all know need to be said. And I really appreciate everyone who joined us today and listened to all these amazing founders pitch their amazing products and solutions. My co-panelists as well who stayed on the call, and also to Dawn and Grant who did the heavy lifting to put this together. We know that we're worth it. We know that our lives matter, that our excellence, our brilliance, and our thoughts around how we move forward are important. And so thank you all for joining us. And Grant and Dawn, I'll pass it on to you guys.